Well, it's been an interesting and an exciting week here in San Francisco, the last week of September. It began with a major announcement from a company that's well known to many, but will be well known to many more very soon. That's a company called Zynga. It's an online gaming company here in San Francisco, employs roughly 1,200 people. Just a year and a half or so ago, they had less than 400 employees, 398 to be precise, but they just made a major announcement for a new headquartered space, 270,000 square feet, where they can accommodate upwards of 2,000 employees. This was a big vote of confidence to the economy here in San Francisco. This online gaming space, digital media, digital arts is really taking shape in San Francisco. And as I've referenced in previous videos, this has been a big part of our effort and outreach with our economic development plans, targeting life science, biotech, nanotechnology, digital media, digital arts, and in the green tech sector. And I want to just applaud the great work of Todd Rufo and Jen Matz in my office and Kelly Pritzker and others that worked so hard in collaboration and concert with Zynga and their great team, Mark Pingus being their CEO, to try to facilitate this major expansion. It was, again, a big vote of confidence in San Francisco's fate and future. And trust me, if you haven't heard of Zynga and what they're doing in the online gaming world, Farmville, Mafia Wars, all these well-known brands within the industry that they've advanced, trust me, you'll be hearing a lot more about them. And by the way, without getting too far ahead, we look forward in October to make some very exciting and not completely dissimilar announcements. It's really, well, I'll leave it at that. There are some major announcements as it relates to some companies that are going to be making big investments in San Francisco. And again, Zynga is just the first of many more to come. Something else that I wanted to update folks on is the America's Cup. I want to thank Supervisor Chu, President Chu, and Supervisor Mercarimi and the entire Board of Supervisors. It's just been spectacular, and all the elected family here in San Francisco, and I mean family not just at the Board of Supervisors and our treasurer and tax collector, but Senator Feinstein, Speaker Pelosi, Barbara Boxer, electeds up and down the state from Governor Schwarzenegger to electeds all across the country that have signed on, mayors, former governors, current governors of other states, and the like that have come out to support America's bid for the America's Cup. I mentioned a few weeks back in our weekly video the $1.2 billion of economic activity, the 9,000 jobs that would be created if we were the base of the defense of the America's Cup. Of course, we're competing against King Juan Carlos in Spain, literally, and we're competing against President Berlusconi in Italy, literally. And we're out here in the Bay Area with all the benefits and attributes of this natural amphitheater, which is the San Francisco Bay, and with the opportunity to be the only American city to defend the America's Cup. If those of you not familiar with the America's Cup, you should just care on this basis, besides the love of the sport and showcasing the natural beauty and wonderment that is sailing in the San Francisco Bay. You should care because of those 9,000 jobs. You should care because the economic stimulus for the region is the equivalent of 3 Super Bowls. And if we actually succeed in getting the America's Cup to defend the Cup here, there is great expectation that they'll actually win that defense and continue to make subsequent investments for many, many years to come. So this is an extraordinary moment and opportunity to really jumpstart our regional economy and our local economy. And I want to just congratulate everyone that's worked their tail off to get us this far. And the reason I mention it is this week we submitted our term sheet to the Board of Supervisors, basically laying out the scope and commitment we're making to be the host city. We've got a lot of work ahead of us. We expect a decision in the next number of weeks. Is it 3 weeks or 6 weeks? I don't know. But the determination of which of those 3 countries will host the 34th America's Cup will be determined very, very soon. And I just can't say enough about all the elected family here in San Francisco and the corporate commitments that we're getting from CEOs of companies, large and small, throughout San Francisco and the Bay Area that have really stepped up. A lot of work to do. I'm not going to overpromise here because of the folks we're competing against. That's why I mentioned King Juan Carlos and Berlusconi. They've actually been involved as active participants for their countries bids. We have a different kind of political system here, as everybody knows, in terms of expectations and other things that folks in D.C. are focused on, but there's a lot of support out there. We just got to get through these midterm elections, and we hope to see that kind of same enthusiasm. I expect we will, coming from elected officials back in Washington, D.C., not just at the state. Though, again, thank you to Speaker Perez and the Senate Pro Tem, Darrell Steinberg, not just the governor, that have all really stepped up to the plate, environmental organizations, community, that got us this far. Third thing is we had a really exciting announcement as well, at least I thought it was, because we actually competed against cities large and small across the country for a $12 million 3-year grant that came from the Gates Foundation. The money is significant, but what was more significant is the Gates Foundation actually decided to start investing in San Francisco again after years and years where they weren't so sure that we had our act together as it relates to public education. In this case, we were one of 4 cities that received a multi-year grant. Millions of dollars will be used to focus on a college-going culture and partnerships that would be developed. We call it a bridge to success between the city and county of San Francisco, the San Francisco Unified School District, and our community colleges, the backbone of our education system. 2.9 million students in the community college system. We often forget how important the community college is for vocational training and for career track and for people, regardless of their time in life, to get quality education. But we needed to create a framework to streamline our data collection, to streamline our collective efforts, and the Gates grant will allow us to do that over 3 years, again, as one of 4 cities that will be receiving that $12 million. Hydra Mendoza, as good as it gets, really led that charge, and I want to applaud her and her good work, and Carlos Garcia at the school district, and Chancellor Griffin and others at the community college system for really stepping up to the plate and showing what we can do when we build public partnerships, not just public-private partnerships, and really work in a collaborative. My core belief has always been that, if money shouldn't be the limiting belief, meaning a lack of money, that if you have a better idea, the money can start flowing. I really always have believed that. That's why we did universal health care. It wasn't that we had hundreds of millions of dollars at our disposal. We had a better idea, and the money started to flow because we went out there to draw down that money. Same case here. Because of the work we've done with kindergarten to college and the fact that this year we're handing out college savings accounts to many kindergartners that are entering the system, because of the work we did for San Francisco Promise and the guarantee of a 4-year college education for all our 6th graders, because of the A through G requirements that have been advanced by the great work done by the school board and our superintendent, all those things contributed to us getting in the mix and getting this grant. And now the eyes of this foundation and others are upon us to actually deliver on the promise. And so I can't be more complimentary and actually enthusiastic about this, what this means. I've always said, once a mind is stretched, it can never go back to its original form. And once we can create that quality of imagination of a young child that receives these college savings accounts and now has a pathway, a streamlined pathway to that bridge to success, which is a college education or a career track through community college, then great things happen. And so that's really what we celebrated earlier this week down at the community college campus and out in Ocean Avenue. So compliments and hats off to everyone that made that happen. And finally, a bit of sober news, but also news that I think should give us pause and a little bit of optimism. We're going to lose the federal funding, it looks like, on this Jobs Now program, which is arguably a backbreaker for hundreds of thousands, and I mean that literally, hundreds of thousands of families across this country that may lose their jobs. But rather than just accept that fate, we have some ideas. We have 4,127 families that have been benefited because of the Jobs Now program, the most aggressive expansion of this program of any city, state in the nation. And to the great work of Trent Rohr and his team, they should be complimented and truly elevated in people's minds in terms of the good work that they've done. We recognize that this federal money may go away, and we're still fighting for it. We haven't given up completely. But what we're doing is we're actually going to take some existing job training money and redirect it and realign it so we can keep roughly 1,740 slots available to those families that would otherwise lose their job. The hope is this, that roughly half of those 4,000 plus families will keep their jobs because the private employer will keep them on, particularly through the holidays as we enter October, November, December, because so many of those jobs are in the service industry. And then in January, to make sure that we can build that bridge, we're going to create some incentives and open up the opportunity for folks to continue to get some benefit, these private sector employers to get some benefit for continuing to employ some of these individuals so they can support their families. It requires us to redirect about $9 million, 2.1, 2.2 million, that we'll be asking the Board of Supervisors to help us redirect. The other money was going out anyway for not totally dissimilar programs. We think the best job training, though, is on-the-job training. We think the best job is not receiving $450 a week in unemployment, but $447 a week, which many people do through our transitional program under Jobs Now, but that comes with the dignity of that job itself and a paycheck and the work ethic that's behind it. This is important, and I think I've brought this up in these weekly videos probably 20 times. I'd say 30, but that would be exaggerating. We're fighting hard in Congress. Speaker Pelosi has been great, and Senator Feinstein, Boxer have been great. It's gotten caught up in the politics of the Senate and the need to get 60 votes, pass the House twice. The president said he'd sign the extension of the bill. It's just pretty damning, isn't it? That we have a program that's creating private sector jobs, that's creating real opportunity, giving people dignity, and it costs for many folks less than it costs the taxpayers to just hand out a check, an unemployment check. Yet there's no debate about extending it, even though we rightly extended the unemployment insurance benefits. This is frustrating, but nonetheless, we'll keep fighting, and that frustration has borne some ingenuity and entrepreneurialism on our part to think about our existing job training programs, again, so we can provide at least a framework of 1,740 slots and the opportunity to extend a portion of this program for many, many families. So that's the update for the week. A lot of other things to talk about, but those are 4 important things, and we look forward to checking back in a week or two and talking about our progress on Jobs Now and America's Cup and those other announcements that I mentioned of some companies that are going to be making some big commitments to our city.